to you the podcast Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches. We discuss a range of topics that include addictions, religious abuse, and recovery. This live platform offers meaningful questions and answers, a counseling continuum, and valuable feedback from professionals and others who have been through the process and are healed, forgiven, and reconciled. If they can achieve this, so can you. This program can be heard on iHeart, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Pandora, Apple Podcasts, and others. Make no mistake, this podcast sustains and implements three things: healing, forgiveness, and reconciliation within the Church of God. Thanks for listening.
Good day, friends. It's good to have you here tonight, listening and viewing the podcast, Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches. We discuss a litany of topics, and of course, we have a counseling continuum and excellent question and answers from different guests who come in on the podcast. We thank the Lord for a staff that we have working with us, Mr. Neil, Brother Probes, others, their support. It's good to have them always with us and supporting us. So again, we're glad you're here tonight and good to have you here with us. I want to thank you, dear one, for your prayers in the past. We have expanded the outreach to different platforms, audible.com. You can hear us there. Tune in, Podbay FM. We're on Podchaser, iHeart, Stitcher, Castro, Alexa, Amazon Music, Pandora Review, Apple, Face, SoundCloud, Facebook, and of course YouTube. But tonight, if you want to chime in, you can text in 1-866-538-3664, 1-866-538-3664. You can go also live with your comments. You can go to YouTube. You can type in Church of God in Macon, Georgia, and you'll see the live banner. Church of God in Macon, Georgia. See the live podcast. Also, if you want to call us, you can for counseling. That number is 478-283-9093, 478-283-9093. You can also text us, Wounded Hearts, at www. What is our? I'm sorry. What is our number there?
It's your email. Is it?
Yes, our email.
Which one?
That's right. REEEEECHONE at AOL.com. REEEECHONE at AOL.com. We talk a lot of different topics on the podcast. Some are quite sensitive, and it will need some listener discretion. Our guests don't always agree with our staff people, but we like to discuss these things to open up dialogue, to institute healing, forgiveness within the Church of God. But make no mistake, our main focus here, our genre is three things: to sustain healing, forgiveness, reconciliation within the Church of God. Friends, we've been talking about grief the past couple of weeks, and of course, the past 30 years I've been observing people, and when a spouse dies, many times the other spouse may die, or they go into depression, or some leave the church and backslide. So we're just trying to bring people together who've been through this, who can give us some positive feedback on how to get through, how God brought them through. And I do thank God tonight for those who've been texting and calling in with your excellent questions. In fact, I do have a letter tonight. It was an email, and the person's talking about how it hit the high points. And it was church abuse for 25 years, separated from his wife, and how it destroyed him almost, he said. But he says how God was faithful to me in the end and rescued me and started the healing process. So the wife and he broke up, church issues, but yet he was rescued and the healing process started. So thank you for that letter. We had a question last week about grief. Does the memory of the flashbacks, does that ever stop? Well, I went through that a year and a half ago with uh, just the memory of the health issue. Uh, I had some support there. Linda and Jasmine were there to help, and I thank God for them. And it was quite traumatic seeing the health issue of my wife. But I will say that as time goes on, God can help. It takes God to produce real permanent healing. So ask the Lord to help you and guide you, and He will help you through that with all sincerity. But tonight we have an exciting guest. We've been trying to get her on, oh, I don't know, for about almost
Quite
a
some
year,
time.
quite some time.
Quite some
And she wanted
time.
to make sure it was the right time. It was God's will. And I take my hat off of that. Sister Cavin, her father was a Church of God. He worked in the trustee area, did some ministering. She's been on the church, plus about 70 years, affiliation Church of God. And she has been through the grief process and going through. She had a nephew pass, a grandson, a daughter, a husband, and a pastor's son approximately in the past 6 years. Devastating. Sister Kevin, how did you make it through all of those situations?
God, He's so precious. You know, each time that I have had a death that was coming, He always prepared me ahead of time. I remember my mother, I was keeping her and I was in the kitchen sweeping or something like that. And so then I started thinking about her and I started talking to God about her. So I told him, I said, I don't want you to keep her around just for me. She was a help financially. I said, but I don't want my mother to stay around just to suffer and help me financially. I'd rather for her to go on and be with God, with you, than to have you do that. And I wept and cried and
Wow.
wept, cried, and God just took it away. So when she did pass away, my daughter came in. I had been with her all day and singing to her and praying with her. And my daughter came in for a few minutes, so I needed to leave the room. When I came back, she said my mother looked over in whatever over in the corner and she passed away. So I've never even seen her, leave like that. But the thing that helped me the most is that the preparation that she wasn't going to live. And so in serving God, I have learned to let His will be done, whatever it might be. And that
Sure.
is about 50% of your what you will go through if you realize it's His will and you know whatever He's doing is for your good, then it's much easier to go along with it. For years, I would see her coming down the hallway and that, but just the weeping and the not able to go on in life and all, he helped me not to feel that way about her. And so it was with my daughter the same way. We were all sitting there. She had fallen from her chair and I didn't know that we were sitting up in church. In fact, she had been at my house all day. She had been in my house at that day, and I had been caring for. Would have those little children that she would care for, so I would care for him. And we were talking, and she said, "I do not want anyone to pray me back or do anything." She said, "When I'm gone, I just want to be gone," and so I never thought anything about it. So while I was that night, I was sitting in church and they tapped on her husband's shoulder and told him that she was not breathing. And
Mm.
so then we got up and went out of church and of course ended up at the hospital and we all were sitting around praying and when it came to my time, I just knew he was not going that was it. She was going. She was gonna be gone. So
Mm. Wow.
that has helped me through the years, and I could go the same with the different ones, just my different ones that I have had to deal with, and all of them very precious to me. In fact, I have, as family wise, I have lost most of those that were close to me in older age, not younger. I still have children and all, but they were the ones that were my sisters and my mother, my father, and my brother, and all. Those were people that were very close to me. We were very close knit family. But God helped me in all that He let me know this is it. And so by me accepting it, it helped along the grieving, with the grieving.
Well, that was my question, number three, that God prepares us. But Sister Kevin, I would imagine we have to be in a certain place to hear God to prepare us, don't we? We can't just live any type of way, and we got to be in a place to hear His voice, don't we?
The place to be in salvation, period, is acceptance of God's will. Whatever happens to us in life, we've got to know that this is what He wants to do. When I was very early in my salvation, I I had in my mind I was gonna, before I got saved, I was gonna go to school and I was gonna teach school in Detroit, and so those were my plans. And so when it came time, when I got saved, then I was going to go back to school and finish. I was already in there, but I was going to sign up for my classes. None of that worked out. I
Mm.
couldn't get the classes, and so I was kind of feeling bad about it. But then I said, I'll just let it go. And then my husband moved to Ohio, and I certainly did not want to leave my mother. I was very closely attached to her, so I didn't want to leave the house. So anyway, I told her, that he was going there and he wanted me to move. And she told me, she said, well, you have to go with your husband. You can't stay here. And so that's it. I did exactly what she told me to do. And
Wow.
though it was rough, going there, but I knew that's where I needed to be. God prepared everything, a church for me, and my walk all together. And I realized that if I had not gone, that probably my son would never have gotten saved by staying in
Mm.
Detroit. So by listening to what he had to say and doing what he told me to do, I have been able to get around a lot of heartache by
Mm.
just following God. So that's the main thing, is to learn how to accept whatever he says and go on from there.
Friends, this is Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches podcast. If you've been wounded and suffering, we're here for you. I want you to know that you've not been forgotten about, and we're here to support you in that, to trigger that healing process. We're here for three things: reconciliation, healing, forgiveness, and the Church of God. Tonight we have Sister Cavin. Been around the Church of God about 80 plus years. We want to hear how God has brought her through so many issues dealing with grief. Sister Kevin, let's get back to that point about God's will. I think for many people, that's the struggle really, is submitting to God's will. Have you seen people just don't want to do that, or they can't? But I think that's the main issue, isn't it?
Yes,
God's will.
it's a very difficult thing because we have in our life, we set in our life what we want to do.
True.
And so then he comes along and gives us something that's contrary. We're thinking about when we go there, it's going to be there, it's going to be this. We plan what's going to happen as we get there. But that's not the way to submit. The way to submit is, God, if you say it, then I'm going to do it. And somehow I'll make it through. It was very difficult when I moved to Ohio. I would lay my head down and I would cry and I would miss my mother, and I would go, back and visit with her. And I hated to leave her and all that. I went through all that at that time, but I still stayed where I was. I didn't move back
Yeah.
or come back to her. But anyway, it was very difficult. I would call her and I would be crying, not so much telling her my problems, but just wanting to talk to my mother like I'd always done. And that's one thing you have to do when you do some of the stuff that behind, because when my parents come and visit,
Yes.
Some of the things that were going on, they had no idea they were going on
Hmm.
because I did not tell them that what I was going through. So that helps too, is to kind of break that with people and parents instead of complaining and all that. Just
Yeah.
tell God about it. He'll fix it. He'll work it out, and He did. And she came and seemed like if she look around and see something that I didn't have, she would go back and tell my dad. My dad would call me, and I never told her, and I never said anything to him. And he'd call me, go down and buy so and so because you need it. So God did all that by me just looking to Him to take
Hmm.
care of every situation for me.
So, Gavin, some people, when a spouse dies or a child dies, they get bitter or get upset with God. Why is that? Do you think? I've seen people backslide, leave the church. Why does that happen when a spouse leaves?
The first thing, remember the first commandment one of the main commandments is to love the Lord with all
Hmm.
our heart, soul, mind, strength,
Mhm.
and when there's one more. But anyway, if we love Him like that, He's number one in everything. And if I lose anything, I don't want to lose Him. And so when anything comes against me or anything, and the devil come to your mind and say, you ought to do this, and he doesn't love you, and if these are the things he's saying. But on the other hand, as Peter said, well, who do I turn to?
Yes, yes,
Who can
yes, yes,
help
yes,
me? Who's
yes.
gonna take care of me? You're the only one. And if we keep him in that place where at the top of our lives, then there's nothing the devil can bring to us that will cause us to be bitter against someone that is doing all he can for us to make our
Yes,
lives happy, and
yes.
to go leave him and go out in the world, and there it is, the devil's out there to kill, steal, and destroy. Does that make sense?
Mm.
And what does bitterness do to you? I mean, what
Wow,
kind of a person do you become in being bitter?
it's true.
I
It's
want to be a
true.
person that people want to be around,
Hmm.
that can
True.
enjoy me. So
Hmm.
if I go that route, then what's going to happen? But if I stay with God, He's going to show me how to get through this situation that I'm in. And one of the wonderful things about the situation, I mean, how God will help me, is I can look back with all these different people that have passed in my life.
Hmm.
I enjoyed them,
Yes.
was careful to enjoy them when I was able to be around them, let
Yes.
them know how much I love them at all times, do everything I could for them, have them come visit. I tried to visit when I should. I did everything I could to enjoy my family. So I have wonderful memories. When I look back, I'm looking back on things they did for me, and it's all good. And so, I mean, how are you going to be all pressed down and feeling bad when God gave you somebody that long? My mother, 92 years.
Wow.
My
Wow.
sister in
Wow.
her 80s.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had
Wow.
one sister leave in her 30s, but God gave me a dream showing me that, this was his reasons for doing it. I wasn't even saved then. This is
Hmm.
his reason for doing it. And it was fine. She did not, we were all together, but she did not fit in the group.
Wow.
She was not. She just was out of place. So I knew,
Hmm.
she should go.
Now, friends, I know you have questions tonight. You want to get them in early. We only have about maybe 6 or 8 minutes more here. So again, our number, if you want to email, it's 1-866-538-3664. 1-866-538-3664. If you want to email, REEEEECHONE at AOL.com. So, again, it's important for us how we treat people because the person we're sitting next to may not be here the next couple of weeks. And we want to treat people right. So if they do pass, we can say, look, I did the best I could in your situation. I know you had an issue with
I can't hear you.
someone. Okay. We have to treat people correctly because if they do pass, we don't want any guilt, any struggling, what I should have said or how I should have loved them. So we want to treat people right. So if they do pass, we can have them passed and not feel that guilty feeling about them leaving.
Right. And I couldn't quite hear you, but I'd say if if you are guilty like that, well, then if you feel that way, oh, you just go before God and let Him know, I wish I had
Amen.
done different. And if you will give me a friend or give me someone that I can do what I should have done with someone, I will do it. And this is what makes your life rich is
Yes.
when you lose someone like that, then you turn to someone else that needs you. And so those that are out there, there's a lot of hurting people out there that
So
have no
true.
family, they have no one to come and take care of them. They're in the rest homes, they're glad to have you come there. If you fill yourself with other people instead of what you're going through, it's amazing
That's
how
true.
wonderful your life can
That's
be.
true.
And that is what really enriched my life because I love older people. And
Hmm.
though I'm older, but I still love, from a child, I learned to love older people.
Yeah.
You go and see, they're so glad to have you around and so glad that you care for them.
That's
And
true.
many of them don't have anyone to take them to the store or they don't have anyone to come clean up their house or whatever. Just go and do those kind of
That's
things
true.
and
Yes.
it takes your mind off. And then one thing, don't put yourself in a position to mourn. In other words, if you know it's something that if you go there or something it's going to make you cry, don't push yourself into that. It'll come every now and
Yes.
then.
Yes.
But
Yes. Yes.
don't put yourself in those positions where you're going to cause you to be mourning and feeling down. No, life is wonderful and every
Amen.
day is a blessing for us, and we
Yeah.
want to live that to the fullness
Amen. Amen.
to help to be a godly person and
Yeah.
do all we can
True.
to win souls to Christ and to also give to others all that we can give.
Practical things about being saved and going through grief. So, Kevin, I know that you were visiting someone for what, about 12, 13 years at the rest home? I think you were going eat what,
I used
twice a
to go
week? I think
there
you were going.
every Tuesday and every Thursday.
And you did that
Uh,
for how long?
I loved it.
You did that how long? You did that for what, 4 or 5 years, was it? How long did you visit that person, those twice a week?
I can't hear you. One of the things that I miss at this time is the fact that I can't do that. I really love going around visiting with them and it was a pleasure. I got to know them and people at the place to know them, and it was just a pleasure. It was wonderful. I don't regret a time. I mean, you can't take your time and do what you want to do if we're going to be workers for God. We have
Mhm.
to do what He tells us. So a lot of things like people like to go out and eat and all that. Well, see, those are the kind of things that I don't bother with that much. I'd rather do servicing someone else rather than doing that.
Amen. So, to Kevin, you're talking to someone tonight who is hurting, wounded. What is your advice to them?
Get a good relationship with God. If you
Amen.
do, get a good relationship with Him. He
Amen.
is so precious. He will let you know. He'll take me in. In fact, right now I'm not able to go out and do a lot of things, but He takes me back to years back. How He brought me through situations
Yes.
and how uh, how He changed things for me and how He kept me from getting into evil situations that I could
Mm.
have gotten into. It's just beautiful. I lay up there sometimes at night and He can tell me over and over again because I love for Him to tell me.
Oh,
And it's
yes.
a pleasure to see how He worked my life out. I could never have done it and how He did it and how my children that He saved. Oh, it's so precious to me. I have my youngest son. I lost my older son,
Yes.
and
Yes.
now my young son is saved. Then I have two nephews that are saved, and
Yes.
I just appreciate it. And when I hear about somebody getting saved, I tell God, I want to see. I'd love for my eyes to be restored, and I'd love to be able to walk. I mean, my foot not hurt or my toe. But I said, but if you would save my daughters and my children, that is more joy than anything. I asked him, I said, let me live so I can see. And some of my grandchildren, I want to see them saved. And that is the greatest thing in life. And when someone tells me about someone has been reconciled to their husband. That's so thrilling to me. I love it. I love what God does for people's lives. I wish I could just let them know what a wonderful God He is. If
Yes,
He's going to
yes.
restore it, He will give you something to replace it that'll be just as perfect.
True.
So
Amen.
we can trust Him. I can recommend Him. He's
To our
wonderful.
director, any questions from you tonight?
No, sir, not at the moment. I'm enjoying this.
Well, friends, our time is gone again tonight, and this podcast is by Church of God for Church of God. If you've been wounded tonight, we want to reach out to you. Sister Cavin's here with this 70 plus years being saved around the Church of God. Want you to know that we're here for you. And tonight, if you wish to come back to the Lord, it's time. This podcast tonight was for you. Said some things that was quite poignant. I enjoyed it much. And if you feel it's time to be saved, it is. Let nothing block you, because today is the day. Now's the time. We're going to have Sister Kevin come back again next week to continually probe this area of life. And again, we're here for you tonight. Wounded Hearts, to hear you, get your feedback, and support those three areas: forgiveness, healing, reconciliation, the Church of God. May the Lord bless you. Thank you all tonight. Thank you so much.
Amen.